Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. An emergency video I did not expect to be making this evening. Roster changes going into Major 5 and the biggest tournament of the year at the World Championship. We did wonder, would any teams, Seattle, Minnesota, try and give something a go to level up their team? Rokkr have pulled the trigger. Afro is benched, attaches back into their starting team. A controversial change to bench him a while ago. Now he's back in. Is this the right move? Will this help them stave off the attack from Vegas? Or is actually another step in a bad direction for this organisation over the last couple of years? Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, just to mention, the thanks nearly at 100k. Thought it was pretty funny here actually. The Ghosty is going to do whatever the top comment says. This one in Practical Jokers I thought was pretty entertaining. Also doesn't escape me though, right, that 100,000 followers almost for the flank. Nearly 100,000 subscribers on this channel. I'm very much looking forward to the day when that occurs. I'm also aware that more than likely, unless Call of Duty competitive goes absolutely global, then probably 100k is going to be the biggest milestone. It's not going to get to a million in other means. So 100k is a big one. I've been fantastically grateful for you guys' support over the last couple of years. I think we'll get there within the next couple of months. What I will say though is with 100k being a big milestone, I'll have to do something a little bit special. I'm thinking that I might vlog at least some of my trip to Toronto. I'm going for the major in a week or so's time. So I'm thinking I might do something like that. And then when we get to 100k, maybe I'll release it then. So just as a little bit of an incentive for those of you who haven't hit the sub button, if you're interested, of course, because we're getting pretty damn close. But let's crack right on with the video. First of all, another classic from Infinity Ward. We talked about them nailing everything earlier today, and here's another one. Latest patch update here on the game. Try and do customs right now. It doesn't really work. This is another classic, right? They try and fix the game, do an update. It breaks various parts of it. This is custom games. Apparently, other parts of the game are straight up broken as well. Might not be for everyone. It is for some. What that means for pros trying to scrim tonight or to get ready for their games in the coming days, that's a big question, right? Because it's the final weekend of Major 5 qualifiers. This upcoming weekend, it's a pretty big deal. I'm sure they'll find a solution, but obviously another phenomenal performance from Infinity Ward's development team. And also, speaking of attach, I thought it was interesting. We saw this from Nate Shots at 18,000 likes. Looking back at this, has got to be one of my top 3 S&D maps of all time. This is Warhawk Search and Destroy from back in Call of Duty Ghost. Just a fantastic map. There's some famous clips on this one, not least Attach's attempted wallbang, and he makes this tweet live just last night, or earlier I suppose this morning, my time. And not too long after this, he's been officially announced back into the Rokkr starting team. So Zuma says earlier today, Rostermania before champs with the eyes emoji, wondering what that could potentially be. Jacob Hell doubles down and kind of indicates something is coming, and that thing is this. We saw the other day from Attach, no streams for a few days, see you guys soon, and there were some questions. Is he just heading, I think he was heading out to somewhere, maybe Vegas or LA or something. I think Zuma mentioned it on one of his streams. Of course, they've got a pretty good relationship there, so I imagine Zuma saw this one coming a little bit, but we did wonder, are they going to bring Attach back in? The decision to drop him initially to bench him didn't make much sense to me at the time, especially with who they brought in, the replacement they tried to make, and the rumour then from CDL Scummintel is Attach is back, Afro is gone, Fame is now on the SMG instead of Afro. So that's what they've decided to do. Is this another Minnesota Rokkr disaster class? Are they doing effectively what Boston Breach have done recently with just changing around a load of players to just hope that it works at some point? In fairness, Toronto did that during the Modern Warfare 19 season, and at the end of the game they found a great roster and they had success with it at the end of the organizations in that season, and then kept that through for the coming years. Rokkr confirm it ahead of the final weekend of the qualifiers and the major itself, of course, which is their only chance to make champs. If they want to go to Vegas for champs next month, Attach will be returning to the starting lineup. Afro will be benched. Feel bad for Afro, has worked all this season, right, to get them to this point, and now is benched from the team. Technically could come back in if they still really struggle, but more than likely if they make champs with this current lineup, that's what they'll go with going into the World Championship itself. Attach as well, has he been brought back in just to miss champs again like he did on the Minnesota Rokkr last year, and a double 2 seasons in a row not making champs for Rokkr would be absolutely, well, out of control, abysmal. They can't afford to let that happen. This is their plan to resolve it. Is it actually a good idea though? There's been a lot of controversy on this. Most people seem to think no. I'm happy to see Attach back. I think the way they've constructed this new roster is actually better, but I still don't think it's particularly good. These are their recent results. So Major 3, since the start of Major 3, they came top 3 at Major 2. They had a great run. They made it to the winners finals. And then I've pretty pretty sure they collapsed out of the tournament to the two grand finalists, FaZe and Thieves, respectively. Since then, this is their record. They went 0-5 in Major 3 and got top 12 rounded at the Major by Thieves. They then played their on-LAN home series in front of a crowd, beat Mutineers and Guerrillas, congratulations. Then they lost to Subliners, FaZe, Thieves. Going into Major 4 we are now at the actual event itself. Beat Ravens, congrats. Beat Surge in a full Surge collapse in that series, 3-2. Then they lost to Subliners. That got them some decent points on the board in fairness. And since then they've beaten Ravens in week 1, 3-0. And they've lost to Boston and Vegas. And now they play Toronto and Thieves again. Their record against Thieves is ugly, to say the very least. And Toronto are looking like one of the best teams in the game right now. So I guess they think the only way they get more points on the board is by making this change. And when Attach was benched initially, it was surprising because Attach came on stream saying that effectively he was on a leash in some way. He'd been told to play a certain way. He didn't want to play as slow as he was being forced to. He used to be an SMG. Then he moved on to the AR role, kind of more of a flex. Then he almost became the main right for that team this season. And he was saying that afterwards the coaches wanted him to slow down, and then he was dropped because they were underperforming as a team, and Fame came into the roster, and they haven't been any better since Attach has gone, let's be honest. Yes, they got those results on LAN, home series, all this stuff against bad teams, but there's been nothing impressive since he departed. So let's compare the two teams and what I think about this new roster. This is the roster at the start of the season. Afro, Bance, Cammy, Attach. Not bad on paper at all, and they were quite good for the first couple of stages. 37 in 33 map count, 10 in 8 series count. Their hard point, Afro at a 1.06, Attach was their highest Slayer at a 1.07. Cammy had a pretty slow start to the season, and Afro and Bance did pretty well. Yes, they're only 13 and 16 in hard point, but their control was where they got the damage done, and it was Afro with the highest engagements, highest overall KD, and he had a 1.36 in their search and destroy. So for the first couple of stages, I think it was quite clear by the eye test and by the numbers, Afro was their most, was their best player, I thought, at the start of the season. Afro's individual level has definitely gone away the last couple of months. I don't think that's because Afro's lost it as a player. I just think the team environment isn't as good at the moment. And Afro is struggling as a result. He's still got that potential within him, and maybe this team, as it currently stands, isn't the right one to bring it out of him. And I don't think benching him is the worst idea in the world, but I just look at this new roster and I'm just so underwhelmed. So this has been their roster since Major 4, right? They had a terrible Major 3. They decided to get rid of Attach and bring in Fame. And since Fame has joined, this is what they've done. Afro's S&D has fallen off massively, sitting at a 0.8 since then, but their search hasn't been their problem. They've been 8 and 7 in search. They've been okay. Their control is still pretty good. Afro at a 1.1, 8 in 4 records. It's their hard point that's fallen off a cliff since they brought in Fame for Attach. 7 in 13, Afro at a 0.92, Cammy at a 0.93, Fame at under a 0.9, and Bance at a 0.94. Bance has actually been alright lately, but yeah, Fame has struggled since he's come in, and I'm not surprised. Fame, when he was in challenges, was a pretty hyper-aggressive SMG player. To me, he fits quite well the entry SMG role. I think he can play that fine. I know that he even mentions that he quite likes playing on that flex role, and I guess when they trialed him out instead of Attach, he was on that role and it was working well for them, but I don't think Fame is best suited to that role, and when you've got a player that can run a pretty effective, high-paced SMG in your team, you've probably got to have him on that role because he's going to be more impactful there than he is on the flex. So this is what they're now doing. So Cammy was therefore like the main and was struggling a bit. Their SMGs could never really fire. The team is just so slow, right? If you watch Minnesota play, in hardpoint especially, they're so slow. They don't hit scrap. They don't do what they should do. They give up so much time that top teams don't. Compare that Rokkr versus Vegas series, especially from Rokkr's point of view, to Toronto versus OpTic. It's an entirely different game you're watching these guys play. Like, those top teams are fast. They make decisions on the fly, and they're quick to react, whereas Rokkr are the complete opposite, especially in the respawns. Does this change solve their problems? I don't think so personally. Their theory must be, and I can understand it, we need to put Fame on the SMG because that's where he probably belongs, and sure, Afro is not really a hyper-aggressive entry SMG type player. He's more of a slightly slower paced, more of a slaying SMG, more of like a Simp or a Scump or whatever. Obviously he hasn't got to quite the level of those players, but that's the type of player comparison that might be valid. So if you're going to put Fame onto the primary entry SMG, then I guess you can replace either of your SMGs, and the plan I suppose was that, look, they want to keep Bance. They believe that Bance provides a lot to their communication, to their leadership, to their clutch factor, to their, just general vibes, and I get that. Bance is a valuable player in that aspect, but in 4v4, is it enough? Especially given that Bance isn't going to be a mega slayer, right? I mean, this is a debate that I would have, is like, if I'm going to bring Fame to the SMG and bring Attach back. I don't mind that idea. The Attach Cammy ARGO, you let Attach run a bit looser, right, and just do what he wants to do on the map. Don't have him on a leash anymore. Allow him to play at the faster pace that he wants to. Sure, that can work. I think Cammy's better suited to that flex position, Attach as the main, Fame as the entry sub. That's okay, but it's like, are you going to have enough slaying if Bance is your primary SMG that's there effectively to do the slaying work? I'm not necessarily so sure. If you have an Afro instead of Bance in that situation, yes, maybe you do get more slaying. Do you have the leadership? Surely Attach could provide that. So I'm just a bit confused why, if they're going to put Fame to the SMG, which I think is the right call, and bring Attach back, which I think can well be the right call, getting rid of Afro and not Bance, or at least, you know, not going down that route, is surprising, because the team on paper just lacks a fair bit of firepower now, right? Against especially the top squads, you lose what was one of your takeover players. Yes, Afro had his bad series, for sure, but when Afro was on, like, he would win you the series. My other question is this a decision led by the coaching staff? Is it, and like, did the players decide that this was what they wanted to do, or if the coaches said, Looney and Brian Saint, again, that they're making the call? Obviously, Brett Diamond said back in March now, after they went 0-5 in the qualifiers, that that was unacceptable. The coaches, he trusts the coaches to get them back on track, and obviously it hasn't really worked, and now they've made a move. So look, these were the numbers during Major 4, not pretty across the board. I understand the sentiment behind this change, but I just look at their new roster with no Afro and Attach there, and I'm just not so sure it's really got what it takes. And this is what Vegas, this is a debate, right? Because Rokkr might have a honeymoon period now. Maybe they full well will, and they'll come in and get some good results over the next few weeks. Maybe that's what they're counting on, have a bit of a honeymoon, even if this team isn't particularly good. Just, I don't know, better vibes, different vibes, feeling more confident, because the loss to Vegas would have been pretty gut-wrenching for Rokkr given what Vegas are doing. Or will Vegas be looking at Rokkr now thinking, damn, this is our chance. This new team dropping Afro, like, you know, the best player for the first couple of months of the season, is highly questionable, as some people would put it, and maybe Vegas now are going to be super confident that they'll be able to outplace Rokkr from now to the end of the season. And if this roster change doesn't work out, you can be sure that that camp is going to full wipe at the start of next season. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Just to mention then, before we close out, Rokkr currently sit at 1-2, a 6-6 map count. They play, as I say, Thieves and Toronto their final two games. Two games they're not expected to win. If they can get 10 points or even 20 points after this roster change, that would go a long way to getting them to the World Championship. But right now, with this change, you might well consider the Las Vegas Legion to be favourites. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I will see you next time.
I think you understand this, Ant, but I'm telling you from experience, people like you are unicorns. I think you know this. You got great people around you, but you have the ultimate green light and pass to do whatever the f you want, Ant. You can't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. You are that guy. Like, Scump, literally, he said that he fell so that Dashy could rise. That's cap. He fell and you're rising. That's the bottom line. You're the face of OpTic. You're the two-time world champ in Halo and COD. You have the most unique POV in the game. People look up to you. I look up to you. And I'm older than you. You are that guy. And you can say whatever the you want because you have that green light. Period. He's that guy. Shotzzy is that guy.